Man accused of brutally attacking Seagull after he tried to steal his food at Cornwall Café in front of children. A shocking incident involving the alleged attack of a seagull in the Cornish seaside town of Porthleven has sparked widespread outrage, with police now appealing for witnesses and CCTV footage as they investigate the disturbing event. Now it's time to break down every angle of this story in our AI video explainer.
All right, let's get right into this explainer today because we are unpacking a story that has absolutely captivated and, quite frankly, horrified a lot of people recently. We're looking at a shocking incident that completely disrupted what was supposed to be a picture-perfect day in a beautiful coastal town. It's a case that has sparked a massive wave of outrage online, deeply upset local families and tourists who were just trying to enjoy their holidays, and, crucially, it's triggered an active police investigation in Cornwall. The whole thing basically starts with something as mundane as a simple seaside lunch, and it ends with a truly staggering alleged act of brutality against local wildlife. So let's figure out exactly what happened here. To really understand the impact of this, you have to understand the setting, because it's a massive, jarring contrast. Picture Porthleven. It is widely known as this incredibly peaceful, family-friendly destination in Cornwall. It's the kind of place that draws visitors all summer long who are just looking for relaxation, good food, and a beautiful view. But on Monday, July 13th, that idyllic, postcard-perfect setting was completely shattered. It suddenly became the site of a deeply disturbing, alleged violent attack that left onlookers completely horrified. It was literally a complete 180 from the relaxing summer vibe you'd expect.
Part 1. The Incident. Harborview Café.
Now, what's really wild about this timeline is just how rapidly the whole situation escalated from what is, honestly, a very common seaside nuisance into outright violence. It's the afternoon of July 13th. It's a busy time right near the popular Harborview Café, which, as the name suggests, overlooks Porthleven Harbor. So, a seagull approaches. Now, witnesses claim the bird allegedly attempted to steal some food from a man who was sitting at the cafe. And let's be real, if you have spent any amount of time on the coast, you have likely experienced this exact thing. Seagulls are famously bold, but here is where things take a remarkably dark turn. Instead of just shooing the bird away, the suspect allegedly reacts with extreme explosive aggression. He grabs and punches the bird. And finally, the injured animal is forced through a fence onto the road. It is just an incredibly fast, violent escalation over a stolen piece of food.
Part 2. The Aftermath. Witness accounts.
I want to read you this quote directly from a witness who shared their account on social media because it really captures the gravity of the situation. They wrote, "This man brutally and repeatedly smashed a seagull against the wall of the Harborview Café because it tried to steal some food. He then stuffed the seagull through the fence onto the road where it floundered with 2 broken wings. This was in front of numerous people and children who were hugely upset." I mean, wow. This raw account reveals the deeply distressing nature of the event in a way that just stating the facts doesn't. It paints a very vivid, very grim picture of the alleged brutality, repeatedly smashing the bird against a wall. And it really underscores the tragic outcome for the seagull, which was reportedly left struggling with serious injuries. But most notably, it highlights that this wasn't some isolated incident hidden away in an alley somewhere. It unfolded right out in the open, in front of a crowd. The fallout from this was immediate, and it was widespread. You had families who were highly distressed. Imagine you're on a busy seaside holiday trying to make happy memories with your kids, and suddenly they are witnessing this kind of alleged violence firsthand. They were deeply, deeply upset. And at the center of this chaotic scene was an injured bird reportedly left struggling on the pavement with 2 broken wings. The contrast between a bustling, happy waterfront and this incredibly upsetting scene left onlookers completely shocked. The peaceful atmosphere of Porthleven was just completely shattered that afternoon.
Part 3. The Investigation. Devon and Cornwall Police.
So, how are the authorities handling this? Well, this statement from a Devon and Cornwall Police spokesperson confirms that they are taking this very seriously. They're actively investigating the violent claims made by these witnesses. They acknowledge the specific date, July 13th, they've got the location by the harbor, and they acknowledge the core allegation, that a suspect grabbed and punched the seagull, leaving it injured. By officially stating that inquiries into the matter are ongoing, the police are sending a very clear message to the public that this type of incident absolutely warrants a formal law enforcement response. Now, to build their case, investigators are gathering very specific types of digital and eyewitness evidence. They're basically appealing directly to the community right now. They want witness accounts, they're asking for any mobile phone footage that bystanders might have recorded, dash cam recordings from anyone who happened to be driving by at that exact moment, And of course, CCTV from nearby businesses, like the Harborview Café itself. Because this allegedly happened in broad daylight, right in front of numerous people, the police are really leaning on these forms of evidence to piece together exactly definitively what transpired that afternoon. But it is important to note that at this stage, the investigation is still very much ongoing. No arrests have been made just yet, and no charges have been announced. The authorities are still working meticulously behind the scenes to establish the hard facts of the event. They are continuing to encourage anyone with information, even if it seems small, to come forward and contact the Devon and Cornwall Police. It's a process, and they have to make sure they get it right.
Part 4. The bigger picture. Humans versus wildlife.
Taking a step back, this incident really highlights a major ongoing tension that exists in pretty much every coastal town. We can all acknowledge the nuisance factor, right? The reality is, seagulls are absolutely notorious for attempting to steal food from visitors. It's a common and, yes, sometimes a very frustrating part of the seaside experience. However, despite that frustration, what we are seeing here is a very strong public consensus that responding with brutality and violence toward wildlife is simply never justified. The online reaction has been one of overwhelming, widespread condemnation of the reported actions. People are demanding accountability, regardless of how annoying or invasive the bird's initial behavior might have been. Which brings us to an unavoidable ethical debate, a question we all kind of have to ask ourselves. Is violence toward wildlife ever justified? When our human spaces, our cafes, our boardwalks, our beaches, are invaded by the nature that, let's face it, natively lives there, how should we react? This incident really forces us to confront that line. Where is the line between dealing with a nuisance and committing an act of cruelty? It asks us to reflect on our own patience and our own empathy when we are dealing with scavenging animals who are just acting on their natural instincts.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. How do we safely and responsibly interact with wildlife in these popular tourist destinations? Because ultimately, when we visit these beautiful coastal towns, we are stepping into their habitats. It's their home. We have to consider our own responsibilities to coexist peacefully with the animals that live there. The events of July 13th in Porthleven serve as a pretty stark, pretty tragic reminder of exactly what happens when that coexistence fails. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I really hope this leaves you with something important to think about the next time you head out to the coast.
Okay, one question for you. Do you think there should be stricter penalties for people who are found guilty of deliberately harming wild animals in public places, especially when children are present and witness such disturbing incidents? Share your opinion in the comment. Thanks.